If you think your family would stay united after a tragedy, think again. This is the story of how my brother's death turned my parents, my sister, and every aunt and uncle I had into strangers. And it all started with a lawyer's phone call and a will I didn't even know existed. My older brother Daniel died 6 months ago. He was 34. I was 31. Cancer. Aggressive, fast, and brutal. From diagnosis to death in 8 months. We didn't have time to process it. None of us did. One day he was fine, complaining about a cough that wouldn't go away. 3 weeks later, doctors were telling us it was stage 4 lung cancer, and it had already spread. He'd never smoked a day in his life. It didn't matter. Cancer didn't care. Daniel was the golden child. Not in a bad way. He just had his life together in a way the rest of us didn't. He'd gotten a finance degree, worked his way up at an investment firm, made good money, bought a house at 28, drove a nice car. He was responsible, stable, the kind of person you'd trust to co-sign a loan or give you career advice. My parents were incredibly proud of him. My mom used to brag to her friends about Daniel the investment analyst, like it was a royal title. My sister Kelly and I were fine. I was a high school teacher. Kelly was a part-time graphic designer who mostly did freelance gig work and lived with her boyfriend. We weren't failures, but we weren't Daniel. He never got married. He'd had a few long-term relationships, but nothing stuck. He was married to his career, our mom used to say. He worked 60-hour weeks, traveled for client meetings, lived alone in his 3-bedroom house with a home gym and an office he actually used. We were close, though. We'd grab beers every couple of weeks, text stupid memes back and forth, talk about sports. He was a good brother, solid, dependable. I loved him. When he got sick, everything stopped. He quit his job to focus on treatment, chemo, radiation, clinical trials. Nothing worked. The cancer was too aggressive, too far gone. He spent his last 2 months in hospice care at his house. Our parents were there almost every day. Kelly visited when she could. I took a leave of absence from teaching and stayed with him for the last 3 weeks. I slept on his couch. I made him food he couldn't eat. I sat with him while he watched TV and pretended everything was normal. We didn't talk about death. We just existed together. The night he died, I was holding his hand. It was quiet. Peaceful, I guess, if death can ever be that. He just stopped breathing. I sat there for an hour before I called anyone. The funeral was brutal. Our parents were destroyed. My mom couldn't stop crying. My dad just stared at nothing, blank-faced, like his brain had shut down. Kelly gave a eulogy that made everyone sob. I couldn't speak. I couldn't get up there and talk about him in past tense. It didn't feel real. The whole thing felt like a nightmare I was going to wake up from. But I didn't. We buried him on a cold, gray Tuesday in October. And then we went back to our lives and tried to figure out how to keep going without him. 3 weeks after the funeral, I got a call from a lawyer, a man named Richard Brennan. He said he'd been Daniel's estate attorney, and he needed to schedule a meeting with me regarding Daniel's will. I was confused. I didn't know Daniel had a will. I mean, I guess it made sense. He was responsible like that. But he'd never mentioned it. I assumed everything would just go to our parents. That's how it works, right? I told the lawyer I'd come in whenever he wanted. He said he'd already contacted my parents and my sister, and we were all meeting together on Friday at 2 p.m. That felt weird, but I didn't think much of it. I figured it was just a formality. Sign some papers, split whatever savings Daniel had, close the estate. Done. Friday came. I drove to the law office downtown. It was one of those old buildings with wood paneling and leather chairs, the kind of place that smells like old books and furniture polish. My parents were already there, sitting in the waiting room. My mom's eyes were still puffy. My dad looked exhausted. Kelly showed up 5 minutes late, wearing sunglasses even though it was overcast outside. We didn't really talk. We just sat there in uncomfortable silence until the receptionist called us back. Richard Brennan's office was exactly what you'd expect. Big desk, framed degrees on the wall, a box of tissues on the side table, which felt ominous. He shook all our hands, offered condolences, and gestured for us to sit. There were 4 chairs facing his desk. We sat. He pulled out a folder, opened it, and said, "Thank you all for coming. I know this is a difficult time. I'll try to make this as straightforward as possible." He explained that Daniel had drafted his will 2 years ago and updated it 6 months before his diagnosis. He'd been very specific about his wishes. No ambiguity. Everything was laid out clearly. Then he started reading. Daniel's estate was worth about $850,000. The house, his savings, his retirement accounts, his car, everything. I heard my mom inhale sharply. That was more than any of us expected. The lawyer kept reading. Daniel had left $10,000 to a cancer research charity. He'd left another $10,000 to his best friend Marcus for all the years of putting up with me. That made me smile for a second. Then the lawyer paused, looked at me, and said, "The remainder of the estate, in its entirety, goes to my brother, David." Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. I stared at him. I said, "What?" He repeated it, slower. "Daniel has left the remainder of his estate, approximately $830,000 in total assets, to you, David. The house, the accounts, the car, all of it. He's named you as the sole beneficiary." I looked at my parents. My mom's face was white. My dad's mouth was open. Kelly was staring at me like I'd just pulled a gun. I said, "That doesn't make sense. Why would he—" The lawyer held up a hand. He said, "There's a letter. He left instructions for me to read it aloud if there were any questions." He pulled out a single sheet of paper and started reading. "To my family, I know this is going to be a shock, and I'm sorry for that. But I need you to understand why I made this decision. Mom and Dad, I love you. You gave me everything. You supported me, believed in me, and I wouldn't be the person I became without you. But you're financially stable. You own your home. Dad has his pension. Mom has her retirement account. You don't need my money. Kelly, I love you too. But I've watched you struggle with money management for years. I've lent you money more times than I can count, and I've never seen it paid back. I don't blame you for that. Life is hard, but I don't trust that this money would be used wisely if I left it to you. It would be gone in a year, maybe less. David, you've always been the one I trusted most. You're responsible. You're stable. You work hard. You live within your means. And you've never asked me for anything. I'm leaving this to you because I know you'll use it well. Maybe you'll pay off your student loans. Maybe you'll buy a house. Maybe you'll finally take that trip to Europe you've been talking about since college. I don't care what you do with it. It's yours. I trust you. Please don't let this divide the family. I love you all. This is my choice, and it's final. Daniel." The lawyer folded the letter and set it down. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Then my mom started crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. She said, "This is insane. He can't do this. He can't just—" The lawyer said gently, "Mrs. Peterson, this is a legally binding will. Daniel was of sound mind when he drafted it. There's no ambiguity. This is his final wish." My dad said, his voice shaking, "We're his parents. We raised him. The lawyer said, "I understand this is difficult, but the will is clear." Kelly stood up. She looked at me, her face red, and said, "You knew about this, didn't you?" I said, "What? No, I had no idea." She said, "Bullshit. You were with him at the end. You probably manipulated him into—" I stood up too. I said, "Are you serious right now? He wrote this 2 years ago, Kelly. I didn't even know he had a will." My mom said, "How could he do this to us? How could he just—" She couldn't finish. She just sobbed. My dad put his arm around her. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Resentment. He said, quiet and cold, "I hope you're happy." Then he stood up and walked out. My mom followed him. Kelly stood there for another few seconds, staring at me like I was a stranger, and then she left too. I sat there, alone in that office, feeling like I'd just been hit by a truck. The lawyer said, "I'm very sorry. This happens more often than you'd think. Families and money. It's complicated. I said, I don't want this. I don't want any of it if it's going to destroy my family. He said, that's your choice. But legally, it's yours. Daniel wanted you to have it. You can refuse it, and it would go to his next of kin, which would be your parents. But that was explicitly not his wish. I drove home in a daze. I sat in my apartment and stared at the wall for 2 hours. Then I called my mom. She didn't answer. I called my dad, straight to voicemail. I texted Kelly. No response. I tried again the next day. Nothing. They were shutting me out. A week went by. I finally got a text from my dad. It said, "We need space. Don't contact us for a while." I replied, "I didn't ask for this. I didn't know. Please let me explain." He didn't respond. My mom blocked my number. Kelly posted something on Facebook about family betrayal and people showing their true colors. She didn't name me, but everyone knew. I talked to a few friends. Most of them said the same thing. It's not your fault. Daniel made his choice. Your family is grieving and lashing out. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like I'd stolen something from them. Even though I hadn't. Even though Daniel had made this decision on his own, years before he got sick. 2 months passed. I didn't hear from any of them. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it alone. Christmas was the same. I sent my parents a card. They didn't respond. I tried calling Kelly on her birthday. She declined the call and texted me, "Don't." I kept thinking about what Daniel had written in the letter. Please don't let this divide the family. But it had. Completely. And I didn't know how to fix it. I thought about refusing the inheritance, just signing it all over to my parents and walking away. But every time I got close, I'd remember what Daniel said. I trust you. He'd made this choice for a reason. He didn't want the money to disappear. He didn't want it mismanaged. He wanted me to have it because he believed I'd use it responsibly. So I kept it. I paid off my student loans, $40,000 gone in one payment. I put a down payment on a small house. I set up a college fund for my future kids, if I ever have them. I donated $10,000 to the hospice center that took care of Daniel. I invested the rest. I didn't buy anything flashy. I didn't quit my job. I just used it the way Daniel said I would, responsibly. But the cost was my family. 3 months after the will reading, my mom finally responded to one of my emails. She said, "I don't know if I can forgive you for this." I wrote back, "I didn't do anything wrong. Daniel made this choice. I'm just honoring his wishes." She said, "You could have refused it. You could have given it to us, but you didn't." That tells me everything I need to know. I said, "If I'd given it to you, I would have been disrespecting Daniel's wishes. He didn't want that." She didn't reply. Kelly sent me a long message on Facebook 4 months in. She said I was selfish, that I'd always been the favorite even though I pretended I wasn't, that Daniel had been manipulated by me over the years and I'd poisoned him against her. None of it was true. I didn't even respond. What was the point? My dad called me once, 6 months after the funeral. I thought maybe he was ready to talk. I answered, hopeful. He said, "Your mother is devastated. You've destroyed this family. I hope the money was worth it." Then he hung up. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried for the first time since Daniel died. Here's the thing no one tells you about inheritance. It's not really about the money. It's about what the money represents. My parents didn't need Daniel's money. My dad had his pension. My mom had savings. They owned their house outright. They were fine. But the money represented love. It represented who Daniel valued most. And in their minds, he'd chosen me over them. That's what hurt. That's what they couldn't forgive. Kelly didn't need the money either, but she wanted it. She'd always struggled financially, and in her mind, this was her one shot at stability. And I'd taken it from her. Even though I hadn't. Even though Daniel had made that choice, not me. I've tried explaining this to friends. Some of them get it. Some of them say I should have just given the money to my parents to keep the peace. But that would have meant ignoring Daniel's explicit wishes, and I couldn't do that. He trusted me. He chose me. And even though it cost me my family, I had to honor that. It's been almost a year now. I haven't spoken to my parents in 10 months. Kelly blocked me on everything. I heard through a mutual friend that they had Thanksgiving together this year and didn't invite me. I spent it alone again. I'm in therapy now. My therapist says I'm dealing with complicated grief, mourning my brother and mourning my family at the same time. She says it's not my fault, that I'm caught in an impossible situation, that I made the right choice by honoring Daniel's wishes. But it doesn't feel right. It just feels lonely. I think about Daniel all the time. I wish I could ask him why he did this, why he didn't just split it evenly, or leave it to charity, or do literally anything that wouldn't have torn us apart. But I think I know why. He wanted his money to mean something. He didn't want it wasted. He didn't want it to disappear into my parents' retirement account where it wouldn't change anything. He didn't want Kelly to blow it on a new car and rent for a year and then be back where she started. He wanted it to actually make a difference in someone's life. And he trusted me to do that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using it wisely. I'm building a stable life. I'm honoring him, but I'm doing it alone. And I don't know if that will ever change. Here's my question for you. If someone left you everything and it destroyed your family, would you keep it? Or would you walk away from it to keep the peace, even if it meant disrespecting the person who died? I've asked myself that question 1,000 times, and every time I come back to the same answer. I couldn't betray Daniel, not even to save my family. Because honoring a dead person's wishes, especially someone you loved, that's sacred. That's a responsibility you don't just walk away from because it's uncomfortable or because people are angry. But here's where it gets complicated. About 8 months after the will reading, I got a call from Marcus, Daniel's best friend, the one who got $10,000 in the will. We'd stayed in touch a little bit. He'd checked in on me a few times, asked how I was holding up. He knew about the family fallout. Everyone in Daniel's circle knew. It had become this ugly, whispered about thing. Marcus called me one night and said, "Hey, can we meet for coffee? I want to talk to you about something." I said sure. We met the next day at a cafe near his place. He looked uncomfortable. He ordered a coffee, stared at it for a minute, and then said, "I need to tell you something about Daniel. Something he told me before he died." My stomach dropped. I said, "What?" He said, "Daniel knew this was going to happen. He knew the will would blow up your family. We talked about it, multiple times. I tried to convince him to split it evenly, or at least leave your parents more, just to avoid the drama. But he wouldn't. He said, they don't need it, and Kelly will waste it. David's the only one I trust." I told him, "Man, this is going to destroy them." And you know what he said? I shook my head. Marcus said, "If they can't respect my choices after I'm dead, then they didn't respect me when I was alive. This is a test, and David's the only one I know will pass it." I sat there, staring at my coffee. I didn't know what to say. Marcus continued, "He wanted you to have it because he knew you wouldn't fold. He knew your parents would pressure you, and Kelly would guilt you, and everyone would make you feel like shit. And he wanted to see if you'd stand your ground. Not for him, for yourself." He said, "David spent his whole life being the easy one, the peacemaker, the one who never rocks the boat. This is his chance to choose himself for once." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I said, "So he did this on purpose? He knew it would tear us apart, and he did it anyway?" Marcus shook his head. "Not to hurt you, to free you. He said your family had always taken you for granted, that you were always the one who bent, who compromised, who made everyone else comfortable. He wanted you to have something that was undeniably yours, something no one could take from you, and he wanted to see if you'd fight for it." I didn't know whether to feel grateful or furious. I said, "That's insane." Marcus shrugged. "Maybe, but that's what he believed. He loved you, man, more than anyone, and he wanted you to be okay after he was gone. He knew the money would do that, and he knew your family would hate you for it. But he hoped that eventually they'd come around. And if they didn't, then they were showing you exactly who they were." I went home that night and cried harder than I had since Daniel died. Because he was right. About all of it. My family had always taken me for granted. I was the stable one, the dependable one, the one who never caused problems. I'd spent my whole life making sure everyone else was okay, and no one had ever asked if I was okay. And now, the one time I'd stood my ground and honored someone's wishes, my own brother's dying wishes, they'd turned on me. But here's the update that changes everything. 2 weeks ago, almost a full year after the will reading, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my mom, handwritten. I almost didn't open it. I thought it was going to be another guilt trip, another accusation, another attempt to make me feel like a terrible person. But I opened it. And this is what it said. David, I've spent the last year being angry at you, at Daniel, at the situation. I felt betrayed. I felt like Daniel chose you over us, and I couldn't understand why. But I've been in grief counseling for 6 months now, and my therapist has helped me see things differently. This was never about you. This was about Daniel's fear that his money wouldn't be used the way he wanted. He didn't leave us out because he didn't love us. He left us out because he knew we didn't need it. And he left Kelly out because he knew she'd waste it. That's hard to accept. But it's true. I've also realized that I've been punishing you for Daniel's choice. You didn't ask for this. You didn't manipulate him. You were just the person he trusted most. And instead of being proud that my son trusted you so deeply, I made you the villain. That was wrong. I'm sorry. Your father isn't ready yet. He's still angry. Kelly is still angry. I don't know if they'll ever come around, but I'm ready to try. I miss you. I miss my son. I don't want to lose both of you. If you're willing, I'd like to meet for coffee. No pressure, no expectations. Just a conversation. I love you. Mom. I read that letter 5 times. Then I called her. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was shaky. I said, I got your letter. She said, I meant every word. I said, I miss you too. We met for coffee 3 days later. It was awkward at first. We didn't know what to say. But eventually, we started talking. Really talking. About Daniel. About the will. About the last year. She cried. I cried. She said, I don't know if your father will ever forgive you, but I'm going to try to help him see what I see now. I said, I don't need him to forgive me. I didn't do anything wrong, but I would like my family back. She said, I know. I'm going to try. We've had coffee twice since then. It's not perfect. It's not like it was before, but it's something. She asked me what I did with the money. I told her. She nodded and said, that's exactly what Daniel would have wanted. That felt like the first real validation I'd gotten in a year. Kelly still won't talk to me. My dad still won't talk to me. I don't know if they ever will, but my mom is trying, and that's more than I had a month ago. So here's the boundary lesson in all of this. Sometimes honoring someone's wishes means losing people you love, and that's not your fault. You can't control how people react to your choices. You can only control whether you stay true to what you believe is right. Daniel trusted me. He chose me. And even though it cost me a year of my life, even though it broke my heart, even though I've spent months wondering if I made the wrong choice, I'd do it again. Because integrity isn't about what's easy. It's about what's right. If your family can't respect your boundaries, if they can only love you when you do what they want, then that's not unconditional love. That's control. And you don't owe anyone control over your life. Not even family. I kept the money. I honored my brother. And I'm rebuilding my life, one piece at a time. Maybe my family will come back. Maybe they won't. But I'll be okay either way. Because I know I did the right thing. So here's my question for you. If you were in my position, would you have kept the inheritance and stood your ground? Or would you have given it up to keep the peace? Drop your verdict. NTA, YTA, ESH, or NAH. And tell me why. Because I still think about this every single day. And I still don't know if there was a right answer. I just know what I chose. And I have to live with that. Thanks for sticking with me through this one. I know it's heavy. Next episode, we're going in a completely different direction. Something lighter. Maybe a little bit of revenge. Maybe a little bit of justice. But for now, trust your gut. Honor the people you love. And don't let anyone make you feel guilty for doing the right thing. Until next time.